Hello, everybody. My name is Christian. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Adjust. I don't know if you guys heard about us. If not, I'll give you a brief introduction later. So I thought I'd make this presentation a little bit more black and white since we are on the black stage, obviously. And I'd like to make it also a little bit entertaining and that you guys have some fun and enjoy it. So we built Adjust 5 years ago, started in Berlin. Today we have 140 employees all across the world. So we have now 14 different offices, starting from San Francisco to New York, Tokyo, Beijing, and so on. And we're doing, to give you an idea, we're doing around 60% of our revenues outside of Europe. So we have more than 2,500 clients on our platform. Among those clients are all the apps and companies that you might have heard of, such as Uber, Spotify, Microsoft, and so on and so on. And so what we do is basically we provide a technology that enables our customers, who are companies in itself, to basically analyze where the most valuable users come from, what they're doing inside the apps, and how the apps are performing in the different app stores. So we have now around 1.5 billion integrations in different devices across the world. So that's more than 60%. And I assume that among this audience, we have probably 90% of you guys have at least one of our SDKs integrated. So let me talk about, because this is building a global player, and I have a couple of points I'd like to point out to you. I think this is like a typical curve of when you start a business, and let's assume this is 5 years, yeah? So you start from the left, and then this whole thing lasts for 5 years. So basically, when you, let's say you raise your first round, then you start a business, you rent a small office, and you get all that stuff, things are super exciting, right? You think, all right, we've done it. We've got $1 million on our bank account. You immediately go to the Porsche website, configure your 911, because you think you made it. So you're super excited, and you just keep going, hiring the first people, and so on. After a couple of months, you might figure out that the company that you have pitched and the idea that you have might not work. So there are clients who are not using your technology. There's not a market. So this what a lot of people call pivot. So this is when things get really really bad, because you have to go back to your investors and have to tell them, you know, this idea we pitched to you a couple of months ago, we figured it's just not working. Sorry. So you have two options. One, and we did it ourselves back in 2012. So we had actually a little bit different idea, started to develop something, tried it into the market, figured out, oh shit, this stuff is never going to work. So we went back and say, okay, either you lose all of your money or you trust us that we can make it happen and figure out a way to do it. So this is kind of this depression, yeah? This tale of when things are getting quite bad. And then suddenly after a while, then you get some traction. You get first customers, you get your first money, you send out your first invoices, and then things really exploding at some point. And then you figure, oh shit, so we have this tiny company, we have now 200, 300, 400 clients. So how do we keep up with that? Yeah? And this is the fear phase, because when you're sitting there with your two co-founders in this tiny flat, things are pretty easy, because you say, okay, how can we do this, how we can do that? Communication is easy, making decisions super easy. Things get really messy when you scale up, right? So because then you have to build teams, you have to build structure, and all that unexciting things. And then after a while, and at least it takes 2 to 3 years, then you suddenly see some success. Yeah, and you say, okay, this model seems to work. You have recurring revenues. Customers who bought your solution in the first place, they renew their contract, and there's a word of mouth. You created your mini brand. There's suddenly there's a lot of inbound, so customers actually approaching you and asking you, okay, I have this problem, can you fix that? And this is actually where things get really exciting, but again, that takes a lot of time. I'm covering a couple of topics that are, I think, important. And by the way, all these images I took by myself. So back in 2012, we went down to Henschel Road, like everybody else, to the valley. And I think one misconception about funding is that a lot of people think, okay, I have this idea, now I need to have a venture capitalist to fund this idea, and then I build a product, and so on and so on. This is not how it works, unfortunately. The sad news is you have to build something yourself before you get money. Money is here to accelerate things. Money is not here to build things. Yeah? So I think you have to be really careful about it. The second thing is when you talk to venture capitalists, and as I said in the beginning, I want to make this black and white. I would say most of those VCs are really arrogant and dumb people. Yeah? So get used to it. When we raised, I think, the Series A or B, we talked around to 100 or 200 venture capital funds globally. So I think our statistic is quite accurate on that one. And I think the last point on funding and money, yes, you see all these major rounds. This guy raised like 100 million, this guy raised 30 million, whatever. So by the way, we also raised 30, but I think your ultimate goal is to create profit. Because as Andreessen said, profit is like oxygen. Once you have profit, you have freedom. Keep that in mind. And we are profitable since 1.5 years. And then remember the slide before, this is when things get really exciting. Talking about internationalization, I need to speed up a bit. So this is bad in Dublin. So I went to a conference in Dublin. All the hotel rooms were booked out. So this is a student's hotel. I went there for $20 a night. So this is how internationalization is. So I think one step at a time. I see that a lot of times when companies start to become international, opening up offices in London, Paris, Beijing, New York, all the time, all at the same time. This is the worst thing that you can do because there's no chance to learn in a single market and then copy and paste all your learnings to new countries. The second thing is, when you enter a new market, you have to spend time there. It's not about calling a headhunter, get some people on the ground, and just leave them whatever they have to do. 100% of chance of failure. You have to go there, and I can tell you I spent 2014 and 15, I think 90% of my time I was up in the air in the airplane. So you have to do it. You have to go there, and you have to be on the ground. And I think the other thing is, once you spend a lot of time there, you get a feel for the market, then hire people who have this entrepreneurial spirit. Because in the beginning, they are just like you. They are on their own, nobody knows them, they have to get their way to this market and they have to fix it. Hiring. Also a pretty interesting picture I took in San Francisco. So there's a lot of things here that sounds super obvious, but it's not. I see that happening all the time. So, and it's really important. Hire people who are better than yourself. And everyone would say, yeah, of course I do it. It's not. People are really afraid and have fears. So you have to hire people who are better than yourself because what's the point of hiring them if they're not better than yourself? And I think one other thing I'd like to discuss is when you internationalize and you're going into another country, hire 2 people. Because then you figure out if things are not working, is it about the people, is it about the market, is it about your product? If you only have one guy, it's really hard to figure that out. Scaling. So this is a shop in Tokyo. They're selling all these small cars. Pretty exciting. So scaling is really the hardest part of the whole thing. It is really terrifying. It's super complicated to do, and you need to create a team, your management team that takes product, marketing, and all that stuff away from you because that's a full-time job. And I think the way you should think about it is, okay, I have this sales engine. So create an engine that works for itself. Lead comes in, gets converted, sale done. Next thing, finance. The same mythology. Product, the same thing. You need to create engines that run for themselves, and in the end, working like a Porsche engine. Yeah, so that's really important. And I think also one thing, because I only have 5 minutes left. So when you start a business, you hire generalists. People are able to do a lot of things like finance, blah blah blah. But in the end, you need specialists. And sometimes it's hard to people who joined you very early. as a generalist, all these, as this ever-doing unicorn, to become a specialist. So you have to figure out a way to transition them from become generalist to specialist. All right, failing. Failing is really for losers. Failing sucks, and I read all these articles about, failing is great, we don't have this culture in Germany. Yeah, because it sucks. You should avoid it. And I think you can avoid it. But on the other hand, you have to change things if it's necessary. Yeah, and I think that's the purpose of a startup. You are always closer to death than to life. So get used to it. It's like it is. And I think on the other hand is, the more success you have, more suckers will appear and trying to kill you. And it is like that. Your competitors hate you. Everybody hates you. Get used to it. Family and friends. Also, one thing I like to answer because you have all these work and life balance bullshit. Sorry, that's not how it works. If you want to have work-life balance, then work at Deutsche Telekom, but not at a startup. So, Deutsche Telekom they're our friends, they're our clients. I don't want to be rude, but it's like that. I just want to be very clear that it's super hard to do, and it's not fun and all that stuff, yeah? So you will losing 50% of your friends, but anyways, that's how it is. But one thing is important. If you have a family, and if you have kids, and I have also 2 kids myself, take care of them. If you lose them, you are lost anyways. Yeah? And then also sleep well. Another thing, you read all these articles of people getting up in the morning at 5, gym at 6, coffee shop at 7, calls at 8, blah, blah. This is shit. Sleep 8 hours, rest, and then do things. Because it's a long journey. It takes a long time to create something that is very valuable. Competition, I'm just running through that. So I think one major thing is make sure that you have the mobile phone number from your competitor's CEO on your phone. Because although they are competitors, you just want to make sure that you can fix things easily without getting lawyers and that stuff involved until it gets messy. So we had a couple of those issues. Text message, hey dude, yes, we hired this guy from you, I know, but it's how it is. Don't get your lawyers involved, because 2 years ago you hired a guy from me. So you can really fix that with that thing. So market, I think it takes a long time until you really figure out how big is the market and how it's structured and so on. But I think the best thing to identify it if you get some traction. Yeah. Last thing, this is in Sydney, PR. So also PR agencies most of the time suck because they promised to create stuff, right? They say, okay, we bring in these amazing stories and so on. Reality is they don't get your business. They don't understand it because they have hundreds other clients, and this is not how the PR agency business model works. So create your own stories and use them as distributors. That works, right? This is how we've seen a lot of success. Team. So this is actually from a team retreat that we did in Mexico, Tulum. So we're taking the team for a company retreat every year for 1 week. The reason why we do is because we want to create a really special culture. And I think 2 things are really important. One is you really should share your success, but you also should share the bad news. Because a lot of people, they love to share the success, open up the champagne, say, yeah, we made it, blah, next funding round, next big client, blah, blah, blah. But also, when there's some drawbacks, when you launch a product and it fails and so on, you have to get in front of your team and have to explain it. It's really hard. It's super tough, believe me, but you have to do it. And the second thing is, be the guy that everybody likes to work with, and be nice, right? And treat people with respect and all that things, because it's not like everybody admires like the Steve Jobs kind of thing, and I think it works for certain models, but it doesn't work when you need 100 developers. You have to treat them very well, and also the other people, of course, right? I think, so summary. It's hard, and that's why only few people are doing it. First thing, yes, build the best team you possibly can. It sounds super obvious, but I see that but I see people failing all the time. Money, profit is like oxygen, we talked about it. Culture, everything that you do is an investment, it's not a cost. And we did this team retreats even when we haven't been profitable in the past. So we did it, and we invested in it, and it turns out it was a great investment. Focus. I think you rarely see us on conferences and so on because I think if you're running a startup and you are in year 1 or 2, you don't have to visit conferences and events. You just have to build your business. I'm sorry, this is how it is. Every time I see founders just started hanging out at conferences, doing networking stuff, I'm like, dude, you will fail because you have to build a business. And I think the last thing is persistence. I think, yes, it's, if you believe it, you're halfway there. Although all the hard things I just mentioned, it's worth it. You have to do it. It's hard, but it's very satisfying when you reach a point where you see your own company really made it. All right, thank you. I'm just in time. If you want to get in touch, use my email and Twitter account. Thanks for listening. Sorry that I just shut up. Thanks.